Hey everyone, how's it going? Dustin here with Jagged Brush Studios. Just getting some final steps set up here before we get to painting. Got some exciting stuff today. Taking a quick break from the stuff I've been painting, Critical Role miniatures for a customer, in order to paint some new exciting stuff that I got in yesterday from Modiphius. If you're not familiar, Modiphius is a miniature game, some kind of complete game production company. They have board games, they have a lot of other things, but they were kind enough to send me their newest game out, which is Elder Scrolls Call to Arms. And so if you're an Elder Scrolls fan, hopefully this will appeal to you. So they sent me their basic, what their starter set is, which is 3 boxes of plastic miniatures and the core box that has the rules and everything in there. So I'm excited to get to painting some of these. So what I've done is I've primed up this Dragonborn miniature, which comes out of the Bleak Falls Barrows box. That was the one that when I posted yesterday saying, hey, what would you like to see, that people asked for. So of course it's an iconic miniature. Dragonborn, if you've played Elder Scrolls, most people know what that is. I did go ahead and create the base that she's going to go on, because it does look like a female, and tried to make it look very Skyrim-esque, and, you know, with some dead-looking grass, some snow, some rocks, made a rock out of cork. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of how I made this, but I took some cork mat, painted it gray with some dry brushing, added some snow effects on there, glued some grass down, and called it a day. So that's ready to go once we get this model finished. And as always, I'm going to be painting with all Army Painter paints. I am sponsored by them, so I use everything that or all the paints that I'll use today is going to come from them. And once I finish, I'll put all of the colors of paints into the description that is going to be linked to this video, so you can come back and see it and make sure that you get everything done. But without further ado, I think we should go ahead and get started here, and start talking about paint colors, what I'm going to do. So the first step I've done is I've done a zenithal highlight on this miniature, or excuse me, zenithal prime on this miniature. So painted it, or primed it black, then went with some gray, and then topped down with some white. I did leave the shield arm off because when it was on, it blocked a whole bunch of the miniature, would make it real hard to get in there and paint to. So left it off, hot glued it onto a stick here, and we're going to work on that separately. That should be fairly easy. It's going to be mostly some metallic with some skin on there. But what I am going to go for here is some very cold colors. There's going to be a lot of leather colors on this miniature, and obviously that is mostly what they are. We're going to go for some darker flesh tones. I may even mix in a little bit of blues into some of the colors, just to give it that cold feeling, as if they were out in the Nordic wilderness, you know, playing Skyrim. So, all right, let's start looking at some paint colors. So, since we're going so dark with everything, and there's a lot of leather on this miniature, I'm trying to decide. I think I'm going to go ahead and get started with the flesh tone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this tanned flesh and give it a quick mix over here on my Vortex mixer. If you're in chat, if you'd let me know how my audio feed sounds. Is music too quiet? My voice loud enough? I noticed, I think last time that I was here, the music wasn't playing like at all. So I wanted that to come through some. But what we're doing is I'm getting some tanned flesh, and I think I'll take just a touch of this Griffin Blue and mix it in with it just a little bit. We'll see. I'm going to see how that looks on my palette and see what I like about it. So mix those both up. Tan flesh onto my palette here. And then just a little bit of Griffin Blue off to the side. Oops, I didn't mix that one well enough. get that mixed up somewhere. Voice is loud enough, cannot hear the music at all. Okay. Let me know if that's better on the music. I don't want the music to be so loud that it overplays my voice, drowns out my voice. But all right, that's much better. Grab my brush here. And get ready to go ahead and get started. So, working with the size 2 brush here. However, I'm going to mix up my color that I want real quick and see how this looks. So, just a very little touch of blue in there. You probably use purple as well if you don't have a blue, but it's going to give it a little bit of a cold feel to that flesh tone. So it was literally just a dab of blue. No music, huh? No worry, I appreciate it, Chris, and you helping me out there. Let's see if that's better. It may just sound really loud in my headset, and it's probably really quiet in actuality. So I'll just turn my headset down. Yeah, I see that, Tim. We finally both got up our miniatures. I was pretty excited when they came through yesterday. So, all right. So we're doing that tanned flesh with some of the blue mixed in and really trying to get some cold colors going on here. So we're going to start getting our flesh blocked in on this miniature. Make sure you thin your paints out. I'm just going to do this one miniature before I go on to doing back to the project I was working on before this, but I was really excited to get these models in and figured I'd do a special treat of painting one. Hopefully the music didn't jump up way too loud when I bumped up the volume there. If you're in the chat, if you just drop me a message, you just want to know that you're there. If you're a first-time viewer, let me know. If you haven't, if you like what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notified when I go live. All right, so it's going to take a couple coats of this to make sure that it gets complete coverage. Take my headset off here because music's just way too loud for me. So it's going to take a couple coats of that tan flesh with the blue mixed in that I'm putting on here. We're just going to pick out all of the fleshy areas. Like I said, I'm using a large brush right now at size 2 and just working with the tip of the brush. You could use something smaller if you want, but I find that especially when base coating, that the larger the brush, the paint doesn't dry out as quick on the brush, so you don't have to go back for paint refills as often. I'm going pretty frequently right now because I'm not taking paint up very far into my brush. But don't worry about getting paint outside of the lines right now. That's why we're doing this flesh tone first, is we can clean up the underneath areas later. So one quick tip that I've found works is try to start with the bottom layers and work your way out. What's up, Sean? How's it going? Get the flesh on her legs painted. If you haven't and you think you know somebody that would enjoy the stream, I would appreciate if you'd share it with them. Who knows, maybe you could get somebody into a hobby that they didn't know they enjoyed before. I honestly started painting miniatures just kind of on a whim. One day, back when I was in the Army, I decided, I kind of knew miniatures existed as a thing, and I decided, you know what, I kind of want to play one of these miniature war games. And found my local hobby shop online. This was back in 2008, 2009. Called them up and went down and demoed and kind of got into it then. The first miniatures I painted were terrible. Just honestly terrible. Yeah, we'll see, Sean. Actually, I completely printed that miniature for you and then got a better printer, and I'm going to reprint it. So the one that I think I'm going to make it larger, to be honest. It's fairly large as is, but I got a larger format printer that I think I'll make it a little bit bigger. So we're just putting the second coat of the flesh tone on here. Make sure to get good coverage across all of this. I think I'm going to try to paint this one without any washes. It's kind of something I've been trying to do lately. We'll see. But I'm happy with how this is turning out so far as color. We might come back and darken up some of the areas like under the arms a little bit later. But remember, we're putting this on a snowy, icy base, so we want this to look very cold. Which is why we mixed in some of that blue into our flesh tone. All right. Wash my brush here. And decide what color we're going to do next. So I think we can get this fur color done. And for that one, I think we'll go with, I have this fur brown that I think will be perfect for that. So we'll get that mixed up real quick. Sorry about the loud noise. I think this reddish brown with just a little bit of that blue mixed in is gonna look really good. So get that out here on a palette. Whoops. It squeezed out a little bit more than I wanted. That's okay. All right, so grab just a touch of that blue again, just like we did for the flesh tone, and come up here and mix it in with our brown. We'll probably need a little bit more since I put a little bit more paint out on my palette on accident. But you don't want so much that it starts turning purple. Especially with this fur brown, it's got some red in it, and it will start turning purple. You just want it to kind of dull it a little bit. And blue's a good color for doing that. So I like that color right there. Get as much of the paint off my brush as I can. And start picking out the fur on the skirt area, or the, I don't know what it's called. Remember, work with a couple thin coats rather than one thick coat, especially on these miniatures that have really fine details. If you work with thick paint, you'll cover it up and fill in all those gaps, and you don't necessarily want all the gaps to be filled. These are the plastic version from Modiphius, and they're surprisingly well-detailed miniatures. So we're going to be working with a lot of brown colors on this miniature. A lot of the leather, different leather areas on here. There's fur in quite a few places. The miniature was somewhat difficult to assemble. A little more difficult than I anticipated. Most of it's pretty straightforward, but there is, trying to get this left leg on, the one that's forward, was a little confusing. Wasn't super intuitive. Took some work. A little more than I was used to. But nonetheless, we got it put together. Follow the directions. And it'll come along fine. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll answer them as I can. Just focusing on getting some base coats done here. And just about done with this color for now. A couple areas I'd like to get a little bit more on. All right. Let's figure out what we're going to do next. You know what I did forget? I forgot to paint the flesh on the shield arm. So we'll go back and get that real quick. So I would recommend attaching the shield to the arm, but then leaving it unattached from the miniature for painting if you're going to do this. Otherwise, it's going to make getting to some of the harder to reach areas on the miniature really difficult, and it would frustrate me to try to paint that. So I left it off, and we can always glue it on later after we're done. So we're getting the hand here. We'll let that dry for a minute before putting on a second coat. With your flesh tone on this, especially because with the zenithal priming I did, the underneath the shield did not get the lighter color, so the flesh tone is going to be a little bit harder to get coverage on. It doesn't like to cover over darker colors. Alright. Set that aside and let it dry for a minute and figure out what color we're going to do next. So, I'm thinking, since we're going for dark cold colors here, I think we're going to go with dark stone as a portion of my leather after I touch up some fur that I missed. Right along her belt line here. There we go. So, yeah, I think we'll start with dark stone on those, on all of the armor pieces, and then we'll work our way up there. So let me get that mixed up, and then we'll get that going on the palette. Let me know how the music is compared to my voice. Is it too loud, too quiet? I just want to make sure y'all can hear me. I've done some adjusting. So, and then the same thing goes, we're going to take a little bit of this blue that we've been mixing in. It's going to tie all of our colors together, and we're going to mix it in with that dark stone brown. It's not going to do a whole lot, but just give it a little bit of a tint to it. It may lighten it just a touch, actually, because it is a lighter blue, but that's fine. This dark stone is one of my newer favorite colors I've been working with a lot, and it makes for a really good leather base if you want to go with some very contrasty leather colors. So, alright. There's an armor piece here on this leg. So when you're working with a larger brush, you want to keep the paint down in about the bottom third of the brush. You want to do that in general with your brushes, which is why working with a larger brush is better if you can, because you can keep more paint on your brush. And it keeps it from drying out on the tips of the brush bristles. But having a good tip is important on your brushes if you're going to work with a larger brush, so that you can get those fine detail areas. Alright, so there's that. A couple areas on the back. Seems like I'm dropping some frames every once in a while. I think my internet is not the best tonight, which is a bummer. And then clean up something here that I missed. Okay. Back to my armor brown colors. Again, that's dark stone mixed in with some griffin blue is what we're using for our armor colors, the base color of our armor. We're going to end up having lots of very different leather colors on this miniature. And so make sure you get all the vest with this color. or the chest piece. Not sure what my internet hiccups are tonight, but it is bothering me quite a bit. Because I do appear to be dropping quite a few frames compared to normal. Alright, so second coat on some of these areas. Make sure to thin it out, thin your paint out. Two thin coats are better than one thicker coat. And then we're going to get this on the belt also. If you accidentally go onto the fur, that's okay. Sure if my chat's working. Let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything y'all are saying. Let me close a couple things here and see if that helps with some of my internet connectivity issues. All right, back to the belt. Once you get practice with a larger brush with a fine tip, you can get your brush into some pretty fine areas for painting. And we need to do the shoulder pad. At least the bottom half of the shoulder pad. The top half is metallic, so we'll come back with a metallic and do that. We're going to use true metallic metals on this. Because I haven't practiced enough with non-metallic metal to feel comfortable doing that for y'all on stream yet. Okay. The other area we're going to do this is the uppers of the boots. We're going to use the same color, so it's going to be a lot of this darker brown. So if you ever wanted to play in different colors of brown, this is the model in miniature for you to do that with. This line of miniatures in general is a good model to practice your browns on. There's going to be a lot of leathers. So and then to the other boot. I really do apologize for the whatever is causing my internet hiccups here. Let's see if I can adjust a couple things down. It's really kind of irritating me. Had no issue streaming the other night, and then come back to do it again today, and all of a sudden, ta-da, it doesn't want to work right. Despite having a stellar test earlier, so who knows? Who knows? If you're here and you're a painter in the chat, let me know what miniatures you're working on. If you haven't checked out this game, I would encourage you to do so. All right. Let's get this arm done. And I do need to see about grabbing some more of my flesh tone that I've been using here and doing my second coat on parts of the sun. All right. What color to do next? While I'm thinking about that, pick up a couple of parts on this boot I missed. We're going to do the lower parts of the boot in a... We're going to make a very reddish leather color. Kind of a tan red. I may kill the music and see if that helps. Let's see what's going on there. Let's see if that helps at all. Hopefully. I didn't kill the music yet, but wondering if family members are streaming in the background. Alright, so for my leather color, I think what I may actually do is take this tan flesh, and take some of that other leather color we've been working with and mix it about 50-50. And see how I like that color. No, it's not as red as I want it to be. So we'll nix that idea. Scratch that. What we can do is take some of my mythic orange color and some of this oak brown. I want it to be a very, reddish leather color. Just for contrast. We've got a lot of browns going on, so try to push the colors to all kinds of different colors of brown here. And so I'll probably do about a 50-50 mix of this Mythic Orange and see how much of this Oak Brown I can get out of this bottle before I open up a new one. I really like Oak Brown as a color from the Army Painter line. It's a really slick brown that works for a lot of various uses. So get that mixed up here on my palette. Yeah, that's looking better. Very orangey brown. And that'll let us highlight up to the orange color and use the orange as the highlight color. And then we need to mix some of our blue in there just to cool it off a little bit. Not a whole lot. Remember, we're trying to keep our colors on the cooler end of the spectrum. And orange especially is a very warm color. So, all right. So we're going to use this in a few places. So first thing is all of the straps on our leather armor here. We're going to use that on there. If you're more comfortable, you can switch to a finer brush. Like I said, I'm working well with the tip of this one, so I'm going to continue with it. Yeah, I'm happy with that color. It also provides a nice lighter contrast against that darker chest plate for the armor. That's the word I was looking for. All right, and then down the back. Oh, and there's this pouch on our side that we're going to use this on as well. If you have any questions, like I said, aside from why my stream is acting up, feel free to ask them. I'll answer as I can. I enjoy engaging with my viewer audience. Might need to mix up some more of this color here in a second. Okay. Because I'm going to need to make some more of it, so. I've never had this much problem streaming before. I don't know what the problem is. And I hate to kill the stream and restart it. All right. Where was I? Okay, so we're also going to use this on the lowers of our boots. And if you get some up on the darker areas, that's okay. Try one more thing also. Kill Facebook out here. Let's kill the music, sorry. Just trying to get this network connection to quit acting up. I assure you this is not normal. Not normal for 10% of my stream to be dropped frames. Really happy with this color we came up with here for this though. So my YouTube's screaming at me saying that y'all aren't getting enough video and it's stuttering. I don't know if that's the case or not. I know it's stuttering some, unfortunately. All right. The last area that I want to do that use this on is the strap under the shield that's the hand's holding is leather as well. So get that. I know it's probably hard to see that on stream because it's so small. Okay. A couple other areas on there to get. And I'd move it up closer to the camera, but I need to stabilize my hand, otherwise I shake. Sorry. So while we're waiting for all those different browns to dry fully, why don't we hit some of our metallics and knock those out. Actually, let's find a color for the hair here. Let's see. So we go for a blonde colored hair on our Dragonborn. And so for blonde, I'm actually going to start with Monster Brown. Brown color that when I highlight back up to the yellow, it's going to work really well in giving it some depth. So go pick out all the hair here. Just remember, don't try to get it to completely cover in the first go. Give it a couple of coats. And there's some hair that comes down at the front here. Quick second coat. All right. So that'll be a good base for a blonde hair color. let's take some of that pure oak brown here and get the sheath for the sword. Play with lots of different brown colors on this one. If you haven't already, if you'd hit that like button if you like what you're seeing, and then hit the subscribe button if you haven't, that would help me out greatly. I understand the connectivity issues is just as frustrating for y'all as it is for me, because I don't know what the problem is. Didn't have this the other night when I was streaming. All right. Lots of different browns going on there. And then lastly, let's go with, I think I got a little bit of this left. Take some desert yellow. And we're going to hit the tallest uppers on her boots. And just grab a little bit of that blue. I didn't put any into the oak color on purpose. If you put too much of this blue into the desert yellow, it's going to turn it green, so just be careful with that. We don't want green, we want cool colors. So what we're going to get here is this area at the top of her boots. Where it looks like the fur folds over. And does not appear the music is what was slowing down my internet, because whatever. Show me what you got. Thiago, I'm having some connectivity issues tonight. I don't know what the problem is. My connection seems to keep hiccuping. But we're making do. It's a new problem. I didn't have that the other night when I was streaming. I don't know what the issue is. All right. Get the other boot with the desert yellow blue mix. We're just base coating this miniature right now. Nothing fancy. Come back for a second coat on the other side, now that it's dried a little bit. But it wasn't quite ready, so I pulled some paint off. That's bad. It's okay, it's fixable. If you try to paint before it's ready to be painted, you'll end up pulling paint off. It's something I try to do, or something I try not to do, but I end up doing frequently because I am an impatient painter. give that a second to dry real quick. And what I'm going to do now, while that's all drying, is touch up this area on the boot that I got a little bit overzealous with my paint. Same thing over here. I do hope my internet issues won't prevent you all from coming back and watching after tonight. Once I figure out what's going on and why it's doing it, I don't know. All right, so the last step that I'm going to do is, let's see. I'm going to need a little bit more of this Griffin blue here. I know that, so let's get that on there. This isn't the last step. The next step I'm going to do is what I meant to say. I'm contemplating. Yeah, we'll do it. Let's see. Find my color I'm looking for. Some rough iron. Hey David, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Let's take that rough iron here and cool it off with some of this wolf gray the Griffin blue that I've been working with to cool things down so that it has a cool color to it. And we're gonna do our metallics. And I know it's gonna seem really weird to do these in the rough iron, but since I'm not washing any of this miniature, I'm going with a darker base tone for my metallics, and then I'll bring it back up to gunmetal later. So trust me on the process. And I may wash the metallics still, but I tried this technique. If you go and look on my Facebook on the armored bear that I painted for Critical Role miniatures, I tried this technique of starting with the rough iron and working up to a gunmetal, and it worked amazing. I was really happy with it. And it provided more depth of color on the metallics. So getting frustrated at this stream. Internet network problems. Really kind of annoying. Alright, so fairly certain there's some metallic here on the chest also, so we're going to get that drawn in. And then the helmet, of course. Check something real quick. And do the helmet with this same rough iron color. And luckily for people that don't like to paint eyes, you don't have to paint eyes on this miniature, because you can just put black dots where the eyes go and it will look great. This rough iron is a color that I've just started using more frequently for metallics as a base coat color, and then highlight it up from it, and it, like I said, it seems to be working out well for me. been real happy with it. All right, and then we need to get the shoulder pad metal. And again, if you cover up the hair color a little bit, that's okay. You can come back and fix it later. And the last area that I think I see that needs some metallic is going to be on her belt. She's got a few metallic little details, at least on this part of the miniature. We have a whole shield that needs to be metallic. And just a few, and her belt buckle. Just making sure I didn't miss any areas. But before I go over to doing the shield, I want to fix some of the hair area that I missed. Okay. Alright, on to the shield. Shield's going to be fairly easy. Mix up a bunch of that rough iron color that we've been doing with the blue and the rough iron, and base coat the whole thing. It's going to be really a brown color to start, especially if we're going for a tarnished shield effect. I really like mixing in non-metallic colors in with my metallics. It kind of desaturates some of the metallic a little bit, but it helps it make, I don't know, it makes it feel more natural to me when you do just a little bit mixed in there. I know my buddies at Fifth Trooper over at Notorious Scoundrels did a podcast today, and they talked about that on their, I think they talked about it on their hobby thing today. I listened to a few of their podcasts today, and in one of their hobby sections they talked about mixing metallics with non-metallics. Alright, so there's an area that's going to be tough to get to on here. That's right in here. Honestly, it's an area that's not going to be seen on the Mini, at least when you're playing it, so get some paint in there and don't worry about it too much. Alright, we got all our metallics done. Set that aside for now. And the last thing I need to do is the horns. And I think I'm going to actually go back and do those in this desert yellow as well, as the base tone. And we'll highlight up to a bone color from there. I'm not going to mix the blue into this bone color though up here to just give a little bit of tonal differentiation. Not an expert, just a lot of internet. We all nailed it when you were talking about it. I do enjoy mixing non-metallics into my metallics frequently. All right. The last thing I want to do is I'm going to grab a much smaller brush and hit the clothing she has underneath her chest piece here with some of this desert yellow. It's just a small area. I only noticed it because I happened to be looking there a second ago. All right, our Dragonborn is all base coated. Now, what do we do next? Well, we start touching up some areas and then start working on our highlights. We're going to push a lot of our highlights to some of the extremes here. I am going to switch from my size 2 that I've been using down to a smaller brush. And figure out where we're going to start. So I normally don't start with flesh tones because they're one of the last things I usually do, but rather than highlight, I do want to darken some of these flesh areas that aren't as dark as I want them to be. So I'm going to take some more of that blue and really mix up a darker flesh color. Again, we're going with that blue for the cold effect that it's going to give. And thin it out. And get underneath this arm. It's not as dark as I want yet. Grab a little bit more. That should be about right. Much better. And I'm just going to paint this on the down-turned area of arm, on the underneath of this thigh, and on the inside of this one. And then wet it down, and I'm going to feather it out just a touch. Wow, my whole stream is dying. This is awesome. It's getting quite obnoxious. And under the armpit. So just darkening up some of these areas real quick. With some of that cold blue flesh tone. And under the chin, in the neck area. Okay. I don't know, everyone, I don't know what the problem is here. I don't know why my connectivity is acting up. Let me try something, I'll be right back. Because I'm completely losing my connection, and that's cool.